Hi, this is John. This video is on making your own couplers. Why would you need to make a coupler? Well, if you're making your own tubes, there won't be pre-made couplers. Or, in my case, the airframe of this rocket is a coupler. And so I need to make an electronics bay coupler to fit inside a coupler. So I'm going to make a coupler from, and that fits in this coupler tube itself.
In this case, I'm not making a full coupler, but just an electronics bay that slides into the forward end of the booster of my boosted Arcus rocket. So cut off your section to finished length. In my case, this is 4 inches. First off, we need to slit the coupler. And to do that cleanly, it's nice to have a reference line. Draw a longitudinal line along the length of the coupler section using angle iron or some other method to keep it straight. Then we need to cut along that line. You can use any technique with the tools you have available. Here I'm using a small bandsaw because it does a great job and provides a perfectly straight cut longitudinally in this tube. Next we have to figure out how much to slice off so that this coupler fits inside the other tube. Slide it in, getting the edges aligned neatly so that it shows you exactly how much you need to cut off. Then mark slightly short of the overlap. Again, you want to cut off a little less than necessary so you can sneak up on the width of the slot. Do the same thing on the other side and then join the two marks. Here I'm extending them so that I can see them from the end. And then I'm going to draw a line between the marks using the angle iron again to get it straight and longitudinal. Then cut to the line to cut out the initial slot piece. Here I'm going back to the bandsaw, but you can use whatever tools you have available. Again, a bandsaw is a wonderful tool for this, but you can use a handsaw or whatever you have available. If you do use a bandsaw, make sure to tape the two pieces together so that they're nicely supported when you try to slide them through the blade. And here's our initial slot cut out. Now you want to start with the slot a little narrower than necessary, making it too tight a fit, or in this case, not even going in. It's much easier to widen the slot with sandpaper than to get it a perfect fit on the first try. To tune the fit, we'll use sandpaper and sand the sides of the slots. Use a little sanding block to keep a regular pressure and cut an even amount. Stop frequently and check the fit. The fit you're going for is snug but not overly tight. Remember, you need it to slide inside the tube to open up for recovery. Once you're happy with the fit, sand on the inside of the tube along both sides of the slot. We're going to laminate this with a bit of fiberglass. We want to make sure it'll stick. Now we're going to cut out the fiberglass, release, and breather to reinforce from the inside. Cut out about 1 inch wide of fiberglass, which will laminate on the inside, making a nice bond across the slot. In order to make sure that the coupler isn't too tight, we want a layer of wax paper between it and the tube before we laminate it. Another good option here is 2 or 5 mil Mylar, depending on how much play you want between the coupler and the tube. Wax paper is good to protect the surface from fiberglass. A little section of tube is nice here because we can get access from both ends. You can do this in the long tube, but it's easier if you have a short section. And a scrap piece of tube will help us clamp from the inside. Now head on over to the epoxy area. Fiberglass section on wax paper. I like to protect the ends with tape because everything gets epoxy fingerprints. Scraps of release and breather. our little scrap of tube and clamps to hold it firmly inside. Mix up the smallest amount of epoxy that you can do accurately and paint it on the fiberglass. Then we just lay the wetted strip of fiberglass cloth across the slot from the inside. Take your time, get it lined up so that the slot is in the center. Smooth out the fiberglass from the inside to make sure it's nice and tight against the inside of the coupler. Then lay in your release and breather. Make sure the release covers all the epoxy inside, and if you have extra drips, wipe them out first. Now we're going to insert the scrap of airframe and clamp it down from the inside to hold everything in place. And now let that cure. Another option, if you don't want to use a small section of tube, is to lay up the coupler inside the long tube and then inflate a balloon inside that to hold everything flush to the surface. And then once it's fully cured, we can take everything out and expose our completed coupler. Trim off the excess fiberglass, and we're done. And check the fit. Make sure it works as a coupler should. And finally, you can fill the groove left over between the two joined halves if you like. And there you have it, a way to make your own coupler in case you're in a situation where a ready-made one isn't available.